Hey everybody, welcome to Woodworking Wisdom. My name's Colwin. Thanks for joining us today. Today is all about fruit turning, but we're going to use some different materials. I've done a few fruit demonstrations before. One of the first one I ever done from my workshop, actually, with camera angles all over the place, was me turning wood and fruit. So that was a mobile phone right in the middle of the COVID closures. So we're going to take a slightly different look at it today, where I'm using a Banksia nut that's been sort of stabilized or pressure treated with some resin. But also we're going to do, you will use a knot. When I say a knot, I mean an actual knot out of a much bigger tree. And we've got Ben behind the cameras, so he's doing all the trickery on the cameras and asking all the questions. So give him a shout if you've got any queries or questions to ask. But look, let's have a look at this knot. There we are. So it literally is a knot from a tree. Now it's full of voids, and I've done the same to this. Really, I've just used some resin with a gold pigment in it to fill those, well, hopefully to fill those voids. Now I'm quite excited about turning that one. That should be quite a different one. It's going to be lovely and glazy when we start to polish it as well. So we've got two. There's one that I've done already from the Banksia nut. You can see how that resin fills those voids really well. And I've done two at a time. I've done another batch here to start me off. Now, I don't know whether you can see here, you can just see maybe that it's the bottom of a little drinks bottle. This is about 75, about 3 inches across, but you can see the indentations from the bottom. So that's what I used as my container, my vessel to cast in. So slightly turn the Banksia nut to size before sinking it in. Ben, just behind you, there's a coffee cup with a Banksia nut in and some resin. And you just mystery hands coming from the side camera. Thank you. But look, this is a nice casting vessel, a cardboard coffee cup. You can see that what we've got in there is another Banksia nut with its resin in there. Now this one's probably a bit deeper than I need it, so we've got a little bit more excess resin down here. But I guess you could fill that with something like some plasticine or something if you didn't want to use quite so much. But yeah, there we go. So just another idea about casting. Yeah, first question, Ben. What have we got?
So we've got an early question in from Terry here. He's saying he's just had to convert a paint pot into a pressure pot, but it has a slight leak. How long should you leave the resin under pressure?
Unfortunately, Terry. Hello, by the way, Terry. Unfortunately, you're going to have to sort that leak out because it's going to be longer than that leak will let you do. I had the same thing on mine. Mine's an old glue pot, a lamello glue pot, actually. And I had to get the old PTFE tape out and make sure all those leaks were gone, because really I'm leaving resin in the pressure pot until that resin starts to cure. So I like to say, really, for me, I'll go anything from around about 2 days to 4. And by that time, you release all the pressure, you're not going to create more bubbles. Because don't forget what we're doing with pressure. We're not expelling the air. We're just shrinking those bubbles out of sight. So if you suddenly let pressure back in again, those bubbles are just going to come back. Saying that, what it also does do is force the resin into the holes, because you're almost like pulling the resin in by shrinking the physical size of those bubbles. Remember, it's not like vacuum where we're expelling the air. We're just shrinking it down, shrinking the bubbles down. So yeah, really until it starts to set. So I would say for most resins, they start to cure after about 24, and they start to properly harden after 2 to 3 days. So yeah, we need to sort that leak out. Yes, Ben.
And a question from Jim. He's asking what resins you've used.
So I'm using the new resin, and it's that new. I keep forgetting what the name of it is. Just shout it out, Ben. What is it? Entropy. Let's just show the bottle. And the good thing about this, and what I'm liking about this one at the moment, so we get this from the UK. It's buy a bottle of resin and then buy the hardener to suit. So that just means that if you're only into countertops, you only buy the countertop resin hardener. Or if you want to do some deep casting, then go for deep casting hardener. If you want to do both, buy the resin and both sets of hardener. So it's quite more of an efficient way of working. And it's quite the hardeners. really quite liquid. So it's again, it's a nice, easy way of mixing. So Entropy, they're going to be in stock with us in around about 2 to 3 weeks' time. Yes, Ben.
A question from Edina. He's asking, well, he hasn't asked the question yet, but he's saying, is it okay to ask a lathe maintenance question?
You can ask whatever questions you want. Absolutely, ask the question.
And then one from Maria here. If you leave the resin out and just turn the Banksia apple, would you be using different tools to those you'll be using today?
You could do. I'm just going to go with the same tools that I would normally use. So I'm going to start with a 3/8 bowl gouge, and to get the basic shape. Then I'm going to use a SKEW chisel flat, just as a negative rake scraper. You could just go in with scrapers; it'll work really, really well on this. Banksia nuts though turn beautifully. So I would go normal wooden. So what you would do for a wooden apple or pear, so bowl gouge and maybe a SKEW. But for me, no, I'm going straight in and doing what I normally do. Other people may want to go negative rake. I don't know what you're used to, but no, for me, it's just going to be the same. I'm using them in a slightly different way. So I'm doing a lot of shear cutting. I might decide that if this is exploding, the resin's exploding or fracturing, I'll scrape a bit quicker or sooner than I would normally would. For me, I'm using the same ones. And good to hear you back, Maria.
And then one here from Mark. He says he's just watched your video on the bowl saver. Can you use the bowl saver on dry blanks?
You can. It's a little bit more aggressive. So coring a bowl is an aggressive act. So we need to brace ourselves and be ready for it. It's a loud act, so ear protection on all the time. When you haven't got the luxury of that softer, more forgiving wet timber, whether you're bowl coring, so nesting out bowls, whether you're hollow form making, all of those things which are aggressive acts become more aggressive and louder and dustier. So you just have to prepare yourself for that. Then also, because of that extra aggression, the lathe power is more important, so you need to make sure that you've got a decent lathe, a most powerful enough lathe to be able to do that. Is that Gentleman Woodturner, Mark?
No, sorry, this is Mark Edward Woodward.
I was going to say, the only reason I say that is I know Mark, Gentleman Woodturner, has a big lathe, so he can cope with it. So just think about that. Anything smaller than this, or this size and under, I'd go with a not too big a core. So we're just doing one called the Max 4, the Woodcut Max 4. I would say this lathe you're properly pushing its limits. I wouldn't like to do it on this size of lathe. And this is a powerful lathe. I would want to go up to a big lathe. But anything smaller, so under Max 4, then fine, no problem. Just nurse the lathe. So I've mentioned nursing the lathe before. So if you're using or doing a big bowl and you're taking big cuts with a 3/8 gouge, bowl gouge, you might have to just be careful, sharpen your tools a little bit more often, and don't push quite so hard, because you can pretty much stop any lathe I know if you press too hard. So nurse the lathe and get that maximum the maximum sort of torque up by altering your belts. Yes.
So there's a question here from Martin. He says he's got some cheap resin which says it should have a room temperature of 25. I guess it's curing at a room temperature of 25 degrees C. Is that critical in the UK, because it's not likely to happen?
I guess that's not a casting resin, Martin, because the idea with resin, you want to keep the temperature down, not up. We want the length of time that it dries to be long, because otherwise you're going to have bubbles. The bubbles are going to fix in position, and you'll get too much chemical reaction. You need to keep it cool. Remember, with a fast cure time, you're going to get heat. So you do need to be careful with that. I would do the opposite. I would get down nice and low in your temperature. Go on YouTube, watch people that are doing deep castings. The one deep casting company that I know actually has a table that blows cold air from underneath it to keep things cool while it's casting, but they are doing massive tables. So yeah, think about that. I would go with the opposite. I reckon that what you've probably got is not casting resin. You've probably got a countertop resin. So just double check that.
And then Edinator's maintenance questions come in. He's asking, so he has a 406 and's had an electrical brake failure. An engineer's on his way to fix it. Is there anything they can do long term to help the lifespan of the electrical components?
Just don't get any issues with my machine here. Now, whether that is how we deal with it, I don't know. But a couple of major things to think about. I've said about nursing the lathe. And one of those jobs within nursing the lathe is use your belt settings. And if you're not using belt settings and you're making that lathe struggle all the time, then yeah, there's going to be something's going to fail quicker. So on this particular lathe, the 406, so say when you've got 2 belt settings. So if I want to do something big, I'll go down to its low belt setting. So that's where I've got more torque, less top speed. If I'm doing this sort of normal stuff, I stay on the high speed all the time. So make sure you do that. If you think about that poor old box of electronics trying to break the machine, and you've got a big piece going around at a high torque setting, you put more load in it, and there's potential for a problem. So use that accordingly, okay? Make sure you use your torque settings on your belt. Like gears on a bicycle. Think about your poor old legs. You're trying to cycle uphill and you're in top gear. You struggle. Now, your legs are like the motor on any machine. Just bear that in mind. Yes, Ben. I'm going to have to start turning.
Yeah, it's like turned into a Q&A. So, Colwin, just a quick one here from Michael. It just says, do you increase the speed for harder woods?
No.
Don't do that.
I generally have a, and there's been a lot on social media lately and forums about lathe speeds, and I ignore all of it. I never want to look at a chart that gives me a lathe speed, because I feel that's very dangerous. Because one bowl blank is completely different to the next bowl blank. If you had a piece of balsa wood as a 12x3 bowl blank, then you had a piece of ironwood as a 12x3 bowl blank, they are different beasts, and different timbers act in different ways. A lot of these charts don't allow for turner's ability either. So I would personally throw any charts that you have in the bin, and any equations that you have in the bin. They don't make any sense for wood turning. That's my rant over. Right, I'm gonna just turn this like a normal piece of fruit. We're gonna have dust extraction running because it's resin and I don't like it. And we're going to get down to a position or a round first. I might get a little bit of slippage here because these are all hard materials. But I'm going to use my bowl gouge as a roughing gouge. My thumb on top just to prevent myself getting a mouthful of resin while I'm talking to you. Now, I think I'll just do a finishing cut. If we have a quick stop and a check and see where we are with that one. I'm going to whip through the outside of these because I want to get both of these pieces done for you. So we're already exposing that lovely marking. So we're going to start shaping a bit more. There we are. So all I was doing there was just really quickly taking away some of that excess. Now we can start shaping. We'll do exactly the same thing in a minute with the knot and resin. Right, let's get that skew chisel and scrape a finish. And then we'll use the side of our parting tool actually to give us that final bit of shaping. So the reason being, look, if I get rid of this rubbish to show you. So lead in with the front of the parting tool. And then scrape with the side. Same on the back. Stop and have a double check, and I think we're okay for sanding. Yep, I think we're good for sanding there. You could, if you wanted to, go down a little bit further to get rid of the belt of resin, but I'm going to keep it. I want the size there, really. So let's go. I'm going to start with a 150 grit. Then a 400. Oh, sorry, then a 240, then a 400. And because it's a little bit of resin in there, we're then going to go 600 as well. Let's get rid of these tools a minute. $600. I need to mark my abrasive, so 240. Sorry, 240. That's actually a 400. And a 150 I've already got here somewhere. There we are. So most of my normal wooden fruit would have a coat of sanding sealer now, once this is sanded, but we're not going to do that. We're going to oil these instead, because I've got a mixture of wood and resin. Sanding sealer just won't work. $240. So I am really rushing through this sanding. You need to make sure that finish is good. I am going to have a quick stop and check in a minute though. Let's have a double check. And we're good. So 400s. $600. Stop and check. If I've got any issues there with radial lines, then all I'm going to do is, using a 400 grit rotary sand, just go against it. You'll take out your rotary lines immediately, and then you just sand your 400s away with a bit of 600 on the hand sanding, because most of the rotary lines that will be there will be from your initial abrasive. There we are. This is not a transparent abrasive, so a transparent epoxy, so I don't need to worry about going too fine. Let's get rid of any muck that might be there. We'll go in with some, I'm going to use some citrus oil on this one because I've got it wet. I was using some this morning, so we're going to go with a bit of that. Yeah, Ben.
So we've got a couple of good questions here, Colwin. First one from Terry. He says, do you not find that the long strands get caught around the impeller in the dust extractor?
No, because I'm using a cyclone extractor, and it's at the moment it's missing because we've got a separator in there. So no, I haven't had any issues. But Terry, I'm not doing masses of it though. If I was doing a lot of resin, then I might have an issue. But no, it's not too bad. Well, it's not bad. So I don't get it.
And then Edinator's asking, is heat generation during sanding a problem for resin?
Not if you move quickly. I mean, if it is, drop your speed down. But I tend to, because of the old production days, I tend to go quite quick with the sanding. So I've sort of mentioned it before in that I make sure that I'm not heating and stressing the timber, and I use my fingers to detect the heat. So if it's starting to get uncomfortable for my fingers, then it's going to start damaging the timber. And the same with the resin, really. And you see me keep swapping positions, so getting away from clogged up areas as well of abrasive. There we are. Yes, Ben.
Well, there's part one of a question coming from Maria.
Yeah.
She's been given some Eki wood. It's a reclaimed railway sleeper offcut. At some point, it's been soaked in creosote.
Wow. ...
Oh, here it comes. There's the next bit. I can't get rid of the smell no matter what. It's all the way through and thereafter sanding, sealing, waxing, etc. Any ideas on how they might get rid of the smell of creosote?
Because it's done its job, hasn't it? That's why they use it. It's treated it and really sort of been blasted in there. Funny you should say that, Lemmer. I've got one by my pond, and we couldn't make out for the first few years. Couldn't work out why on a really hot day, suddenly the pond had like an oil slick on the top, and what it was that like tar material was getting so hot it would drip just a little bit, but into the pond, and we were really worried to start with that the fish it was gonna kill our fish. It didn't, but that's what it is. That tar or creosote stuff, just a minute amount, is putting a little oil slick. It's been pressure treated. It's gone in. I don't think we're ever going to get rid of that sort of thing, unfortunately. I think it is just there. Yeah. Unless anybody else has got an idea to shift it.
Maybe a bit of citrus oil might improve it.
Yeah, well, we improve the smell. Won't get rid of it though. Look, let's have a quick look at that. That's a really lovely feel to that, and a nice sort of sheen. It's not too glossy on that one. Now we have got the top and tail to take away in a minute. I'll do that for you, but let's do the other knot first, and we can improve on that finish as well. We can of course get the buffing wheels out in a second. Let's go that way around. I have centered these up. I'm not just guessing where center is, everybody. So we're not. This isn't just happening. We have done a bit of prep. So we'll do one more. If I get to top and tail both of them, brilliant. If not, don't worry. I'll show you next time. So this one, I don't know what to expect this. And I actually cast this one probably January, I would have thought. It's a long time ago, because I wanted to bring this to you a bit sooner, but with one thing and another, we haven't. So I'm quite excited about this. It might be a disaster, but let's hope not. You're fairly quick. We've got corners. Normally I'd cut those corners off, but we're going to work with them. Stop and have a look and see what we've got here. Well, that resin has gone all the way down, look. This is really cool. And then, oh, this is a piece of ash. I wasn't quite sure what the timber was. I can see it now. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going with the parting tool first, just to finish off the top and the bottom. Or, sorry, not finish off the top and the bottom, but just to get that curve, that inner curve done. There we are, just get rid of the worst, then I'll go back to the SKEW. If I was just doing wooden, I say just, if I was doing wooden apples, I wouldn't do this bit here, I wouldn't use the SKEW. It's only because I've got some of that resin in there, and this will give me the best finish off the resin. Because the timber is so dense as well, it's giving me a really nice finish off of that. There we are. Stop and just double check. That should be okay for sanding. Nice. It's going to be gold. Once we sand this and once we've got the oil on it, that's going to really shimmer out a gold finish. Nice bit of timber as much as anything else. It's got some really nice, interesting colours around it. Oh, just before I start sanding, I'll turn the extraction off just to answer any questions. Yes, Ben.
So a question here from Edinator about the parting tool. He's asking, how much of a slant do you put on the parting tool when using it to scrape?
Where is it now? So a little bit. I would say probably from the upright, from the level position, I don't know, probably 10 degrees-ish. It can change. It depends whether the timber's particularly hard. I'll have it slightly higher, but just literally a few degrees, but not much. But yeah, no, about 10 degrees, about fine. Most of the time, only because I want to try and get the center point and the tool rest, because of the width or the depth of a parting tool, the tool rest sometimes is a bit too high for it. So I just have to raise it for that reason, you know. That's the only reason. All right, to keep going for the minute, Ben. Got the dust extractor back on. So we're going to start with 100 on this one because of the wood as well. Well, there goes the 100. So 150. Here we are, 240. 400. A little bit of a rotary sand. Back to 400. 600. A little bit of oil. That's nice. That citrus oil is really giving us off a strong smell. It's a lovely, as in a nice strong smell. It's really nice to use. There we are. Look at that. That's a beautiful bit of wood, that one. So we need to top and tail. We'll take those hold points away. I prefer working this way because it means I can see the outside shape of my piece of fruit rather than using a screw chuck where you can't always see the outside that well, you know. So get rid of the tailstock. That can come right out the way. I'll put the rotary sander out the way as well. We just need to have a quick change of the lathe. So I'll get rid of the tailstock completely. If we put that down to one side. And then we need a chuck. We need a chuck with big jaws. Let's go with that one. So I've got the 114 here. All I've done here, I say big jaws. I just wanted something big to hold my jam chucks. A couple of jam chucks here. These are made of tulip, but most timbers will do. Ones that won't do are things like sort of ash and chestnut. Ash and chestnut really because they split really quite easily. So that would be the only reason. So there, that's going to go in there. That's a big old chuck, that one. If I've got one that's a bit smaller. Yeah, let's use that one. There's a little bit, I'm a bit uncomfortable with that. There's too much gap between the jaws here. So let's go, this one's a bit smaller. There we go. There. Now, let's go with our Banksia nut first. We'll go in order. That's too big a side, so we'll flip him over. And you want to go with a small gouge, just a 6mm quarter-inch gouge. And nice and gentle. Remember, you're only holding on friction here, so take it nice and gentle. Just bring that over so I can see a bit better. Go for it, Ben. Ask questions. That's fine. I can hear you now.
So the first one's from Edinator. He's asking about any tips for creating a strong gripping jam chuck for fruit. He's never been able to do so. Normally just do fruit between centers and not as nice as these jam chucks.
So tips for making a jam chuck.
Yeah.
Experiment with the taper is the biggest thing. Some people have asked me before what the taper is, and I don't know really. It's fine. I would say if I had to hazard a guess, I would say it's probably about 5 degrees. But experiment. You'll find that the more taper you give it, the less grip you're going to get, but the wider variation of sizes you can hold. And then the finer is the opposite. So you're going to get a really tight grip, but only be able to do a few sizes. The only issue with that is if you go too fine, you'll get the piece stuck and then you'll damage taking it out. So you need to experiment a little bit. In terms of the timbers, like I said, most timbers will do. Don't use ash, don't use chestnut, don't use softwood, don't use MDF, those sorts of things. But stick with for the UK at the moment, tulip seems to be the go-to in terms of benchtop joinery, wood frames and all that sort of stuff. It's a straight tree and it's fairly quick growing. But to be honest, I've used oak, I've used beech, lime, all sorts of timbers, and they all work really, really well. Yes, Ben. Next.
And Maria's just assuming that you turn the size of your apple to suit the size of the jam chuck.
No, I turn the size of the apples to what I think looks right. But most of my timbers pre-cut from 3-inch stock. Most of it. Banksia nuts, you're not. you sort of turn to what looks right. Same with that not apple. I did cut it to about 3 inches because that's what I'm used to. But that's particularly big fruit. A lot of people turn it much smaller than that, you know, sort of 65 millimeters. So yeah, I don't turn to the jam chucks. You saw me then. I just swapped it round because it was a bit too small to go on that side, but it fit in this one okay.
And then Jenny's asking, will the chuck not mark the outside of the apple?
No, that's again a good reason for using it. As long as you don't keep tapping to get it in there. I tap once and leave it.
I think Ward's saying he uses a screw chuck.
Yeah. So those are the two main methods: screw chuck or jam chuck to doing fruit. I was brought up this way as an apprentice. This is all we used, and it really, for me, it really works. I can see the shape, and also it's a work holding solution for many other projects as well. So that's the main reason that I tend to go with it. I use it quite a lot.
And then just one more from Dances. Would a split chuck with a large hose clamp work?
Yeah, I guess so. I have seen that before on social. Yeah, I would have thought so. Don't have a huge amount of experience with them though. That's the only thing. And then again, something you obviously make yourself and so on. But yeah, I can't see an issue at all. Beach dowel, soften one end, and that's going to be our knockout stick. Don't use your normal knockout bar, otherwise you will damage your pieces. Flip them over just to show you what we've got there a minute. All right, and then we're going to flip them over next side, sort of roughly center it up, then give it a tap. Doesn't matter, slightly off center makes no odds, because whatever you do, you're gonna even it up. You're gonna make it round. Here we go. All right, let's sand that up. Pop the extraction on while I'm doing that. So I'm not starting really coarse on this. I'm only starting with a 240. Then the 400. $600. We're going to drill them in a minute, so don't worry about that. Don't want to drill them on the lathe, otherwise if I do, I'll have a straight hole. There we go. Get that out of the way so the overhead can see them. It's a really nice sort of finish. A lovely pattern on the inside of those Banksia nuts as you get close to the centre. All right, so we'll finish that one off in a moment. Let's just get on with. That's even bigger, so I'm going to try the other side. Whilst I'm messing around trying to find the sizes, I'll just talk to you about a few things that are happening. So Jason's just jetted off, literally just left lunchtime. He's going to be at the AEW. I think it's, I'm not going to push my neck out and say exactly where it is this year. I think it's, no. But I will let you know next week. But yeah, the AEW this weekend. So if you are around and you want to go and see Jace or any of the other amazing things at the AEW, you know you've been warned. It's this weekend. So just go online, AEW Symposium, and have a look. I want to say Illinois. I'm not sure.
Bob P's on here. He said it's Louisville.
Louisville, that's the one. Well done, Bob. A lot of friends going there. So, yeah, don't forget, go and see JC. He'll be demonstrating. I'll go and say hello.
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Yeah, going down to this centre. Now, somewhere in America I do know a lot about is Brooklyn in Georgia. That's the home of Nick Agar Studios, and I'll be there teaching in August. If you want to know what those dates are and or book up, just go to Nick Agar Studios, and we'll be doing smokers, 2 sessions, so two classes. That'll be in August. That's Nick Agar Studios. And then again, if you're in the UK, the wood turning shop at Hampshire Sheen, again, go on their website, and that'll be smokers again. That's in September. All right, I think let's just stop the lathe and just double check what we've got there before we start sanding that one. Yeah, that's good.
Bob P said I think he's booked up on the course, Colin, in August.
I'm going to be meeting him at Nick's, yeah. We're going to have a laugh. We're going to have a blast.
And Ward's asking, are you going to swap?
I am going to be attending swap, yes. So I'll be there as demonstrator. I've got 4 sessions, 4 rotations at swap over in Waco. And I'm really excited. Really excited. I've never been to Waco before. I've been through Dallas and been through Texas, but it's a big old state. So now I'm excited to explore a little bit more. Here we are, so 600 and with a little bit more oil. We're doing well on time, actually. I'm pleased. If you're wondering why I always worry about time, and we try as much as possible to keep it within the hour, because everybody's got day jobs and so on, and you don't want to be sat in front of your computer or TV for an hour or too longer than an hour at a time. Well, hopefully, we'll be out there in the workshop making. There we are. We'll flip that one over. So knockout stick, a brass mallet. Sorry, nylon mallet, not brass mallet. There we are. It's the bottom of that one. It's nice. And just swapping around. Get them nearly upright. Give him a tap. And away you go again. If, for whatever reason, he does pop out, he or she does pop out of the chuck, just don't panic. And hold the heel of the gouge against the piece, and it will lock back up again. What you'll have to do then is just stop the lathe, take it out, and reseat it square. That's good. So 240. So that's needing a little bit coarser. Let's go 150. 400. Obviously, if you wanted to and it's causing a problem, then bung in a 320 as well. All right, but I'm just skipping through that. Nice. So back to our oil. Tap him out. That back out the way. You can see there, nice little bit of resin. Got that gold fleck in it. Not as a talking piece. All right, so let's just top and tail these. I'll tell you what, top and tail, put the holes in. So if we just dismantle, I've just got to change the jaws one more time. What have I got that will, there we go. I was going to say, what have I got that will hold that? And I just seen a nice set of pin jaws down there. I want to hold a small drill, but usually about 3.5 to 4 mil. So just above the 1/8. Maybe 3/16.
Maria's asking if you've ever turned olive, Colwin. She's been carving it, and it's got really wacky grain.
Beautiful, isn't it? It's, do you know, I wouldn't say it's my favourite timber, but it's close. The reason being, I just love the smell. The smell of it is just insanely nice. Quite waxy, quite oily. Turns so well, especially those finishing cuts, doesn't it? You know, when you do those just little fine touches, it just loves to be cut. And I didn't realise how many different places you can get olive from. Obviously, there's the Spanish and the French olive, but that grows all over the place. They can grow to a ripe old age as well, but you can get a real mixture of grain styles, some with really black lines and some fairly muted, but I love it. I really, really enjoy turning olive. I guess it carves well because it's sort of self-lubricating as it works. Yes, man.
So Edinator's asking about the spiraling, eccentric spiraling chuck. Whether there's any plans to do a video, or have we done any already?
Yeah, if you go on the product page on the website, hopefully it's still there, but both myself and Jason have done a few videos on that, and it should be on the product page. I'll have a double check afterwards, and if it's not, then find out where it is on YouTube. Yeah, now the reason is a difficult one to do a live. We can do a live with it, but it almost wants to be a recorded video, only because it takes quite a long time. Each time you want to offset to another position, you have to undo it and re-go. So to have a finished project is probably not doable in the hour. We could certainly show you how it works, but not in the hour. So a recorded video maybe. Yeah, but go to the product page, have a look. Hopefully that one's still on there. Right, there. If you didn't see what was going on, all I'm doing is using that drill bit, not in straight. I'm in purposely in at an angle, and that will then offset when it comes to putting the stem in. That should offset it. Come the right way, Colwin. That should offset that stem nicely, so you can see that rather than sticking up straight, it's coming in at a nice angle. So I've done that. Now we're going to turn the stems. I'm going to keep the same jaws in. This is an old piece of Purple Heart. So this was a corner of So I get the timbers in for fruit making generally in a 1 or 2 foot lengths, so 12/24s. And then instead of just cutting from square, I'll cut the corners off by putting the bandsaw on a 45, just whipping those lengths of corners away. And then those triangles, then I take those corners off of those to become a little square section. So we've got a little square section like this. And I'll use it for the stems, for jewellery, for bobbin demos, all of those sorts of things. So it's quite a neat way of using up your scraps without having to use up good timber. And that means multicoloured stems all the time, which is cool. Quite quick on there. We're going to use a little SKEW, so a little signature SKEW. This is a 3/8, and to start with, just a taper. And as long as you taper down below the size of the drill bit, then you're good. You can sand that if you want to. I'm just going to leave it for the minute. We'll do another one for the other piece. And then again, just part off. All right, so that's our initial stem. Obviously, we need to change that slightly. We're going to just sand the taper on it. Just to let everybody know that if you are in the UK and if you're around Devon, Dorset, Cornwall area, and you shop in the Axminster branch of Axminster Tools, the new shop is open about 100 yards away from me right now. Okay, open today. Just a nice soft launch to start with. We have a few things planned, but you are welcome to come and have a browse around from today. So if you're watching this live, what's the date, Ben?
Today?
Yeah.
It's
the end of May. I know that much. It's the 30th.
Yeah.
So, yeah. 30th of May, 2023. So if you are watching this, we are open today from now on. All right. Sanding disc. We'll have dust extraction on. We'll just sand those little stems. So yeah, the new shop is on the Millway Industrial Estate in Axminster. Probably get shot for opening my mouth too soon, but there. Sanding a little taper. So you can see what we've done, just that little taper. Now there's a little bit of burr on that. Don't worry about that. We'll get rid of that in a second. Good. Right. Let's get rid of the dust extraction. Just going to do a little bit of buffing on the buffing wheel. Right, so I've got my buffing wheels here. Now, normally I'd be going straight over to the tapered pigtail, but like you saw Jason last week, demonstrated the twist and fix arbor. All it means for me, and I don't do any carving or sharpening carving tools or anything like that, but for me it means I don't need my tailstock engaged. The tailstock can get out of my way now, and I can go straight onto the lathe as it's threaded with my preloaded mops. Lathe speed down. I want to be around about 1400 revs is where I polish, but I'm using it more here really to deburr and give a color to these stems. So and this is the Tripoli one, so you can see what we're getting there. Two. Now we're going to just swap. So remember, we oiled the pieces of fruit, so I don't need to do too much to them, but I will buff. So loose leaf mop. You can add a bit of carnauba if you wish. You know, just the oil and the fact that we've used a loose leaf to buff has made a really nice finish on that piece. So that's that one. Let's go with the knot. I haven't added any, but normally pieces that I make, or pieces of fruit that I make to sell, then I'll have a clove in the bottom. There's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it looks authentic, but secondly, it when whoever gets it takes it out the bag or the box, you got that lovely smell from it. There we are. So let's stop that there. We're going to put our stems in. A pinch. I'll show this to camera in a second. Let's get them both fixed up. There we are. There's a couple of... It's different, you know, we're working with resin. I wouldn't do this all the time. All my fruit wouldn't be like this, you know, but those extra special pieces, and if someone wanted something different, then that's a great way of doing stuff. You can rescue pieces if they have got these cracks and splits in, especially if they've got a really nice timber or grain behind them, you know. Yes, Ben.
So we've got a few questions coming in, Colwyn, a lot about shops not being close to them, and a couple of people have mentioned about the Basingstoke store.
Yeah.
That we're closing shop there.
Yes. Yes.
And I guess there's a few people here asking why it's been shut. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, absolutely. Above my pay grade, unfortunately. I don't know. Is the honest answer. Don't worry though. Don't think that's the end of anything. But certainly in terms of the Basingstoke store, yeah, I can confirm that one. They are closing with no signs of reopening. So we'll bring more to you as we know. But yeah, I think it's just a sad state really for the people that work there and for the local customers. But
sure,
yeah, but don't worry. It's not this is not going to represent a bigger picture in any way at all.
No. And Edinator is saying, wait, what did he miss? That wasn't a pigtail arbor, right?
Edinator, where were you last week, man? Come on. No, it's not a pigtail. So this is the twist and fix. Go back to Jason's demo from last week, and he'll be able to explain all about the twist and fix arbor, why we use it, and other things that you can use it for as well, because he's done a great demonstration on sharpening carving tools with the rubberized wheel and so on. But for me, like I said, it means I don't need my tailstock. I can get rid of it out of the way, so I'm free, nothing around me here to worry about. Gives me a lot more room, sort of thing. So no, I like it like that. And they're all preloaded. I can just, put one on and away I go, and put another one on. It's easy. So twist and fix, they're called. Look for last week's video with Jace.
Yeah, and it looks like lots of people have been busy making on here. There's lots of stories about different projects that people are doing and why they're so busy they sometimes can't get onto the lives, and so it's good to see everyone's working away and
it's nice
making stuff. Yeah.
That was right at the very beginning when we started doing these videos. And I was in my own workshop working away. That was the whole idea, is to get the community together and get them talking, get swapping ideas, and hopefully give you some ideas. It gets harder and harder to come up with ideas, but we've got quite a few going at the moment. I would say I've got a list of about 15 to 20 that we're going to look at. Just to mention a few, I got some laminated salt and pepper grinders going to do for you next week. I want to do... I really struggle with my abrasives and storage of abrasives. I've got a box just with bits of abrasive at home. The same with the sanding pads. So I want to come up with a storage unit that we can store our abrasives in, we can store our sanding discs in, all those sorts of things. I think that'd be a useful thing for a wood turning workshop. So that I've got coming. We've got some a lidded bowl I want to do for you, a garlic pot. Amongst many other things. There's a few exciting new products coming. Maybe to do with finger rings, but I'm not going to tell you any more on that one. And that's going to open up a huge amount of demonstrations for you. And of course, it won't be long, and we're going to be thinking about Christmas. So then there are loads of projects there. So no, yeah, we're looking forward to that. Any more questions, Ben, before we sign off? It's one of the hottest days of the summer so far. We're talking Christmas. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for stopping by and giving us the time to watch what we're doing. Don't forget, like I said, it's AEW this weekend, so down in Kentucky. So if you get chance, pop along to that. I know they're also doing online seminar this year for one of the first times as well. So it's a bit of a hybrid seminar, but there's loads of fantastic demonstrators there if you're around that area in the US. Yeah, don't forget, if you're around Brooklet in Georgia in the summer in August, then if you fancy a course with myself, then come on over. Have a look at Nick Agar's website, Nick Agar Studios. But no, thank you very much. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, share us around, and obviously subscribe to the channels. We'll see you on Thursday. I keep looking at Ben for a nod. Yes, we will. Yes. Until next time, everybody, goodbye.